All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Tuesday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. I want you to hear something that Barack Obama, this will be the first Obama cut, I want you to hear something that Barack threatening Congress to do something. I mean, they just signed a budget deal, didn't they? But here he is threatening to use his pen. Here is the cut.
Things that I'll be emphasizing in this meeting is the fact that we are not just going to be waiting for legislation in order to make sure that we're providing Americans the kind of help that they need. I've got a pen and I've got a phone, and I can use that pen to sign executive orders and take executive actions and administrative actions that move the ball forward in helping to make sure our kids are getting the best education possible, making sure that our businesses are getting the kind of support and help they need to grow and advance. To make sure that people are getting the skills that they need to get those jobs that our businesses are creating.
All right, folks, there you go. And again, the threat of executive order. He has John Podesta now at the White House, and Podesta has advised him for a long time to use his executive order and powers more so than he's been doing, and he's been doing it quite a lot. Now, what's Barack Obama doing right now? As we speak, Barack Obama went from threatening to use his pen. He's got the world champion Miami Heat, and I stress Heat, at the White House as we speak, welcoming them there to congratulate them and honor them for their second NBA title, which, of course, they won last year. Now, the last time he dealt with the Miami Heat as world champions, he referred to them as the Miami Heats with an S. Joining us, that's just a little sidebar. Joining us now is our friend, the great former senator from the state of Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum, who is also, of course, former Republican presidential candidate and the CEO of Echo Light Studios. Hello, Senator.
How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and your great family. You know, it reminds me, I thought of you immediately because I was having you on, and you have such a large and wonderful family. There's a study out that's linked on Drudge that married couples are happier if they don't have children. I mean, doesn't I don't even know who wrote it, who did it, but doesn't this fit the social agenda that's being perpetuated upon us in this country?
Well, I don't know what the definition of happiness is, because happiness in my mind is doing what you're ultimately called to do. And I always believe what you're ultimately called to do is not just look out for yourself and focus on yourself, but be of service to others. And I always say there's more happiness in giving than receiving, and I think we're trying to redefine that there's more happiness in receiving than giving. And I just don't think that's true.
Yeah, no, I knew you. I knew you when I told you wouldn't be happy. Neither was I. I only have one son, but he's my life, and I can't imagine doing anything with.
It's a life-changing experience, and you don't know happiness until you have children.
Probably written by people who never had children. Anyway, so much to get to here. Before we get to your Meet the Press, I just played a soundbite at the beginning here before I told everyone that Obama's with LeBron James right now at the White House, and he's threatened again. I have a pen. In other words, reminiscent of an 2012 where we can't wait. If Congress won't do it, I'll do it. What is wrong with him?
Yeah, he's a bully. I mean, let's just put it this way. I mean, it's a long line of bullies. I mean, you have folks who believe in government, and that government is the tool that they use to accomplish what they want to accomplish, which they think is good. And they absolutely don't want anyone to stand in their way. They're not tolerant of dissent. And you see an authoritarian president like I really have never witnessed. I mean, people talked about FDR and they talked about Lincoln, but that was during the major wars. I mean, we're talking now a president who's just wielding authority and ignoring the Constitution and it's just that bullying people into trying to get them to do what he wants them to do.
Yeah, and he's made a lot of the. He celebrated the 50 years of the war on poverty, and now he's got these zones going on. But I got to talk. I became aware of a piece by David Brooks back in 2008, October of 2008. He talked about how, because he's such a real Republican and conservative, he disagrees with you on almost everything, except he was praising you to the hilt in this New York Times piece, and quite an extensive piece about how you have what you did for the the state of Pennsylvania, and how you've been at the forefront when it comes to, really trying to end poverty in this country.
Well, I mean, I take the admonition that we are our brother's keeper, and that we have a responsibility to help and to serve others, particularly the one who are in need in our society, and our neighbor. And people say, Rick, you're always trying to impose your values on the country. Well, we all try to impose our values. That's why we're in politics. I mean, that's the whole bottom line, is everybody's trying to impose their idea of how things should be. And mine's a biblically based idea that that we have a responsibility to care for those who are in need. And it doesn't stop just in my family. It doesn't stop in my community. I think government has a role to play, because it does have a role to play. And the role it's been playing has been a destructive one. It's been one of government replacing very important elements in society by taking the job of a father away, by providing income support. It sounds very benign. It sounds very compassionate. But what government has done over the period of time, it is reduced the need for the nuclear family. It's reduced the need for the extended family, because there are now all sorts of mechanisms available that you can sort of go on your own, not have to build strong families, strong communities in order to survive, and that this is a viable and acceptable, and in some respects preferred approach to families in America. And it's destructive. And it's destructive of you go to any community in America where there is poverty, where there is decline and decay, and all the social pathology you see. The one thing you do not see in those communities, you don't see dads. And that's the effect of the Great Society and the war on poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. And this column, I mean, you should hold this column up with great pride, because it just documents everything you've been involved in, including he calls you the floor manager for the welfare reform that Bill Clinton signed, and of course the work provision in that bill basically gutted by unilaterally against the law by President Obama. Well, I mean, here's the key to that. I mean, you talk about the work provision. One of the things that I strongly believe, and you see it on a variety of different fronts, is that earning things is important for not just making money and doing it. It's important for self-worth. It's important for dignity. It's a sense of accomplishment. Getting things. I mean, I'm sure you've probably had people on your show who won the lottery and then melted down, and their lives are destroyed. Very few people who won. No, I stopped doing that because they wouldn't give me any money, so I stopped doing that. But the whole point is when you get something for nothing. Right. It's different than when you work hard. I mean, look at you, Steve. I mean, you're I don't know anybody who works harder than you. I mean, and you work hard at your craft. You've developed your craft. You've risen, and it's different than if you just sort of walked in and at a college, hey, yeah, we're gonna you're gonna replace Rush Limbaugh next week. I mean, you'd crash and burn because you didn't earn it. You didn't learn the lessons that are important to learn along the way. And that's what we do with welfare and food stamps, a whole bunch of others. There's no work requirement. There's no sense of earning our obligation to those who helped you. Absolutely right. We're talking to Rick Santorum here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Chris Christie's about to give his state of the state in New Jersey. I mean, you were on Meet the Press talking about him. Where do you think he now falls or fits in the scheme of things looking towards 2016? Or is it too soon to know? Yeah, I remember getting this question back in the summer of 2011 when Michelle Bachmann had just won the Republican straw poll in Iowa. I think between then and the time I won the Iowa caucuses 6 months later, there were 6 people who were leading the national polls on the Republican side. So I don't take this kind of presidential talk particularly seriously now. I mean, people will rise, people will fall. People that you've never even heard of will get in the race and make a huge impact, and so all of this talk is just that. It's just talk, and it's a bunch of people who think that they're smart and they can sit up there and decide, move pieces on the chessboard as to how this is going to happen, and it just doesn't work that way. The Israeli defense minister today called John Kerry messianic and obsessed when it comes to his negotiations with the Palestinians. The State Department has demanded that Benjamin Netanyahu apologize for that. And he went on to say, by the way, that, there's been no peace talks. We haven't talked to the Palestinians. We just keep talking to the Americans via John Kerry or low-level people. How do you react to something like that?
Even though I'm not a fan of John Kerry, I don't like the way he's operating. I'm not crazy about calling our Secretary of State that, and I think that's something he probably should apologize for the type of language that he used. But I think the substance of the language is pretty close to being accurate. I mean, the fact is that whether it's the Palestinians or even more disconcerting in my mind, the Iranians, we have a Secretary of State and the President who are absolutely fixated on getting a deal, irrespective of what that deal is and whether it in the long term is going to provide for the security of Israel and the security of our country. And in Israel, I understand the passion. I understand how betrayed they feel by this administration, and so I can understand that language. I think when you're in a government, you got to probably bite your tongue a little bit more. All
right, now one more. This is symptomatic. DeFrancesco Soto, a University of Texas professor, was on MSNBC the other day, yesterday, I guess, and she was reacting to the reports of a Hillary hit list, if you will, where her aides after the primary fight against Obama drew up this list. Kerry was on it. They rated these people, how much of an enemy they were to Hillary on a scale of 1 to 7. How they chose 1 to 7, not 1 to 10, I don't know. But I want you to listen to this cut 24, Will. And this is this woman. And to me, this is exactly how it's going to be with the media going forward if she runs. Here it is.
Okay. Victoria, what's your thought here? Would we not be talking about this if this was a man that was involved here?
I absolutely agree. I mean, those of us who study politics, we're not surprised that candidates have lists of those who are in favor and not in favor with them. But there's a gendered element here. If a guy has a list of people he's not too keen on, no big deal. But if a woman does, then that is a big deal, and then it becomes juicy. And this just conjures up memories of the gendered element when Hillary was running. She was seen as too tough during 2008, but then she was seen as too soft when she started crying in 2008. So because she's a woman running for political office, a very powerful political office, we just don't know how to deal with gender yet with her.
All right, now the middle part. In other words, she never heard of Nixon's enemies list. There's been talk about Obama having an enemies list, but no, to her and to the MSNBC, and I'm sorry, to the media, this is going to be because she's a woman, we're talking about her purported enemies list. I mean, this is what it's going to be like. Don't criticize Hillary. Don't look at her funny. Don't condescend to her, and everything will be condescending. You just can't win.
It's laughable. I mean, it's just the contortions I have to go through to turn everything into a race or gender attack. With Obama, it was all about race, and now with Hillary, it's all going to be about gender, as if that is the motivation for everything in America. Well, of course, the left, that's ultimately what they believe. But let me just be very clear. I don't have an enemies list. I've never made up such a list. I don't know very many people who do make up lists like that. But the idea that all politicians, that's just a joke. I mean, the bottom line is that we have a responsibility, whether we like it or not, to go out there and particularly in a position like Secretary of State, to work with people, whether they like you or don't like you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Senator, thank you, my friend. We'll speak to you soon. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Steve.
Take care. Rick Santorum, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Of course, former senator, former presidential candidate, and the CEO of Echo Light Movie Studios. All right, we're coming back. Short segment ahead here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve